Find the position where the missile starts.
Oh, it's relative to where you are, so it actually starts right in the middle of
Where did you quote that?
Right over here. Now don't worry, I have the step-by-step instructions later on, but if you want to see it real quick, we said if you press a space, create an instance of good missile relative to where we are.
Relative.
Yeah. Always really important. If you don't choose relative, you'll never see the missile. So keep that in mind. It's in the instructions all step by step. Now, here's the cool thing, guys. If we think in terms of objects for a reason. If you play a game with 100 zombies, someone didn't spend 100 times the effort of one zombie to make it. They made one zombie object that had stuff inside that says, vary by a little bit if you do this. And then they just made 100 copies of that one object. It doesn't take a program or CPU or RAM a lot of extra effort to do that. It doesn't use up much RAM beyond one zombie, and it doesn't use up a lot of CPU cycles, realistically, okay, relatively, sorry. So what happens if I go back to my space room and I put a second ship there? Oops, let's do that. Second ship object. Let's put a second ship right there. Is that kind of like getting double ships in Galaga?
Yeah.
You might think that's really cool. 1981, that was really cool. I was there. And I wasted pretty much every penny I got from paper road money on arcades. Now, mind you, I have 2 Galaga machines in my basement now. I got about 17 arcades. So I got it all back, times 10. But, yeah. So let's see what happens there. Now, these are 2 copies of the same object. They have the same sprite. They have the same actions inside. So if I move them, they move together. If I fire, they fire together, double fire. And they move. Isn't that cool? Not a lot of effort on the part of the game software, but it looks cool. Object, we think in terms of objects, everything can be an object, but it's a slightly different thing. Okay, now, we can shoot, but are there any bad guys?
No.
Who wants to make some bad guys?
I do.
Okay, let's make some bad guys. First thing we need is a picture of the bad guy. That's called a...
Sprite.
So I'm going to make a sprite. We'll call it
Bad guy sprite.
Baddie 1 sprite, because we have 2 types of bad guys, right? So there's Baddie 1 and Baddie 2, right? So let's load that from a file. Oh, problem here, guys. How many Baddie 1 files do I have? I've highlighted both of them. We have
A and B.
A and B, 1 and 2. What's the difference between them?
They look different.
One has the wings out, one has the wings in. It's a space bug. Wings out, wings in. If you choose both of them, one will be behind another and they'll automatically animate. But GameMaker animates them too quickly for a 1980s game. It'll flap like a bird. 1980s space bugs were slow flapping. So we can slow it down with a line of code. I'll show you that in a few minutes. So let's choose both, and you'll only see one. You'll see the first one, but the other one's behind it. Trust me, it is behind it. So once we have a picture, what do we have to do so it can do stuff? Turn it into an object. So let's make an object. We'll call it Baddie 1 object, and we'll choose our Baddie 1 sprite. And as soon as this is created, we should tell it to slow down. So don't worry, I couldn't figure out a way to do it with the icons in GameMaker, but if you can't figure a way to do it in GameMaker, there's always a way to do it by adding a line of code. And the code you have to add, don't worry, it's image, I put this in the instructions, image underscore speed equals 0.05, which is much less than 1. Don't worry about that. That's a hard part. So it'll flap nice and slow. 1980 style. There we go. Now, these bad guys, if they get hit by a good missile, should they die?
Yeah.
They should die.
No, explode.
Well, they should explode too. Why the explosion after? But that's they should disappear first. Let's do that one first, and then we'll add the explosion. So, whenever something gets hit by something else, we call that a collision. So let's add an event. If this bad guy, Baddie 1 object, collision, with a good missile, get hit by a good missile, collides with a good missile, it should kill itself. That's recycle bin again. And it should also kill the thing that hit it, the good missile, right? That's the other thing that hit it. Cool, huh? Not bad. Who wants to play the game now?
I do.
Okay, so let's add some bad guys to our space room here.
Oh, wow. Can you make the bad guys move?
Oh, they'll animate, trust me. Oh, we can also make them die. head towards, I'll show you at the end. I want you to play with that. It's so easy to do. One little thing. You tell, swarm towards the player occasionally. So I'm gonna play that game. And look at this. Ooh, we got that glitch. There's a glitch in Game Maker. I have to reboot this PC. Notice how the first line was fine, second line it didn't.
Yeah.
There's something stuck in RAM. I have to reboot the PC. It should do that. Should kill both lines, right? But look at that. I've been hitting them, and when I hit them, let's play it again. So let's play that one more time. When I hit them, does it kill both?
No.
Well, I see the bad guys go, and the missiles are gone too, right? But if I miss them, what happens when they fly off the screen? They're just, they auto self-destruct, right? Don't worry, you won't have this problem when you do it at home. It's only because I haven't rebooted this machine. We had a glitch in the morning, or the last session, right? But look at, are they animating?
Yes.
How fast?
0.5.
Nice and slow, just like real Galaga. That's the same speed as real Galaga. So let's press escape there. We've got those, but we want to add an explosion, right? Who wants to add an explosion?
I am.
Okay. So, part of an explosion is a pitcher. What's a pitcher called?
Spring.
A sprite. Let's right-click sprite, create sprite. We'll call that explosion sprite.
A big explosion.
And we will load it from a file. So here we go. Now, if you notice, I didn't call it explosion. It's called Batty Die 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it starts small, gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger.
Let's go for
And
5.
an explosion should always start from the middle and get bigger and bigger and bigger, right? So to do that, if you want to keep it in the middle, you have to add them one by one. So I'm going to add the first one. I'm going to edit it, and I'm going to add the second one. Right? When I add the second one, it asks me, do you want to use a new size and keep it in the middle, in the center? Yes, I do. And notice it made them both bigger, kept it in the center, right? So if I do it for the last 3 files, add them each time, it'll ask me each time, want to keep it in the center? Yes, I do. And the fourth one, keep it in the center. And the fifth one, keep it in the center. And notice it got bigger each time, but it keeps it in the center right here. It gets bigger and bigger and bigger and flies apart. And if I click show preview, this is what it's going to look like when it's animated.
Too fast.
It's fast, but an explosion should be fast, right? What's the problem though? It's still exploding. It will explode forever. Unless you tell it not to when you make the object just explode once. I'll show you how to do that in 2 seconds. So, we've got our explosion sprite. We're all good there. Sprites don't do anything, you turn them into an object. So let's make an explosion object. And we'll choose our explosion sprite. There we go. And we should basically say, you know what? Other animation end. As soon as we're done one round with those 5 animations, as soon as we're done one animation, we should destroy the explosion so we don't see it go on forever. Make sense? There we go. Not bad. Not bad. Now what should create this explosion?
Collision.
The collision between our bad guy and the good missile. So that, where was that explosion? Where was that collision? Sorry. And the good guy, the bad guy, or the missile?
Bad.
The bad guy. Always keep it in the bad guy because the good guy will have lots of code for movement. The missile, you create a lot of them on the screen. You don't want a lot of code in that object. Bad guys stay on the screen, but there's not a lot of them. So you even out the code in your program, better performance. You get really, really good performance. It'll run beautifully on any platform, even a BlackBerry. Right? So let's go to our bad guy, and let's go to our collision. If we collide with a good missile, we'll destroy ourselves. We'll destroy the thing that hit it, the missile, and we'll create an instance of another object. What object? An explosion object, relative to where we are, right at that collision. Who wants to try it now? Okay, now to get rid of that glitch, by the way, I'm going to get rid of one of these rows of bad guys. The glitch is in memory, and so until you reboot the computer and get rid of whatever's in memory, it'll keep it, right? Software is not perfect. True for all game software. Okay, so let's do that. All right. Oh yes, satisfaction. Look at that. Did you guys see the explosion? Do one last one there.
But then that's when you add the bad guy missiles.
Yeah, oh, sorry?
The bad guy missiles, I remember seeing a sprite for that.
Yes, so can the bad guys shoot at you? I'm gonna let you guys do that later today. We're gonna do some more. But I've got some stuff in there for later, some more step-by-step instructions, and sound too. I'm gonna leave the sound to you guys too. It's so easy to do. You gotta have pew-pew sounds, right, for the firing. You gotta have like boom sounds, like cheesy 80s boom sounds. Got those in there too. So you'll see those in the files. I never like to do sound because I never know if the sounds is gonna work.
What language is this program written in?
Was GameMaker written in? I don't know, they never told me. Probably C++.
C++, very object-oriented instances and,
Well, it doesn't have to be. That's what they show us.
yeah.
Most most software in general is written in C++ that you interact with, do stuff with. Most game engines are as well.
They also got the help window up there. They can probably give you some lines of code if you're stuck.
Yeah, I just go to their website. It's a lot easier than the help system in there. They didn't put a lot in there. Their website has all the different code lines. You just Google it and search it from there.
All the
Thank
stuff
you very
that
much.
you did for this frame level, do you have to do that for the next level?
Oh yeah, if you
Yeah.
know, you could just copy it.
You just copy
Yeah,
it?
copy room 0 to space room to room.
And then you can add some adjustments.
Oh yeah, all sorts of neat stuff. No, we're not done
It's
yet.
gonna take forever.
Yeah, exactly. So you can save a lot of time and energy. Now I want to go through a couple more things before we go any further. Let me show you something really cool. I'm going to save this. We'll call it Buggy Galaga. We still have that bug from the morning. I didn't remove my computer. I'm going to close it down. I'm going to open up the one we did before, which we took a little bit further. So I've got Batty. If I play this one, it's got both Batty 1 and Batty 2. And if I fire, got the explosion still. That's working. Nice. But what do you notice?
Only one missing.
I got a score. If you don't have a score, you can't brag to friends. What's the whole purpose of playing a video game? Enjoyment? No. So, we need a score, guys. You guys want to put a score in our game?
Yes.
Okay, let's do that, and then the rest you guys can do. Right, so let's open up our Buggy Galaga one. Just one row, please. You can do like 2 of them, it'll work fine. And let's go down to objects. Some objects don't need a sprite, and a score is a good example of that. Artificial intelligence are also objects that don't need sprites. You know, like when Pac-Man goes chase Pac-Man, that's basically an object that you don't see on the screen that's doing stuff in the background. Score is another one. Score is an object that keeps track of your score in the background and draws the screen manually. So let's make a score object. We'll call it score object. And no sprite, so we're not going to choose a sprite. Instead, we're going to add some events. We're going to say that as soon as it's created, we're going to set the score to 0. You always have to do that. Call that initializing the verb. Okay. And we're going to manually draw it to the screen. But there's a problem. GameMaker, when they draw the score to the screen, they draw it in black. Can you see a problem with that?
Black background.
Our background is black, it's space. So the only way I could figure out how to turn it white was by adding a line of code. so don't worry, this is in the step-by-step instructions. So draw _ set color C _ white. There we go. Don't worry about that. I just Googled it. And like most programs. So when it's created, sets the score to 0, make sure everything in the future is drawn white on a black background, and then we can manually draw it to the screen. Because you have to draw this score to the screen every single time, right? And that's just down here. So let's draw it to the screen. Now when you draw it, it's drawn from the upper left-hand corner of where you place the object. So if it's right in the corner, it's kind of hard to see. So let's move it over to the right a little bit and move it down a little bit. So how about we move it to the right 32 pixels and down 32 pixels. That'll look nice and pretty. And we'll say it's called your awesome score is : and then we'll put the score next to it. All right, not bad. Okay, pretty good. So, and you don't need to choose relative, doesn't make a difference. What should update this score? Every time your good missile hits a
Bad
bad guy. Where's that? What object? Batty 1. There's our collision with the good missile. Destroy yourself, destroy the other thing, create an explosion, and update the score to add 100 points. Sound good? Relative to where we are, so if we had 0 before, now we have 100. If we had 100 before, now we have 200, sure. And then I press OK. I still have to put my score object in my space room, and it's just a little round dot with a question mark in it. Doesn't matter where I stick it. And let's play our game now. Do we have a score? Your awesome score is 0. No, it's not, it's 200, because we just hit 2 of them. Oh, look at that. And those satisfying explosions. Beautiful, huh? Woohoo! 1100. I guess I had how many space bugs on there? 11. All right, now, we have only been in here for 45 minutes. We made a video game, and I talked for a little bit too. That's it. Imagine what you could do on the weekend with step-by-step instructions that go even further than this, and just playing around Game Maker after you go through them. Not hard. Who thinks it's hard to make video games now? Nobody? Who thinks it's easy? Yeah. Now the cool thing is, if you like doing this kind of stuff, and you like math and physics, learn the computer science. We need a lot more programmers today, okay guys? A lot more. And we need female programmers more. Here's a disturbing statistic. Half of all games are played by women.
Huh?
Less than half of all games are played by women, but less than 5% of game developers are women. You know what that means? It means we have a kid in our Kitchener campus, big, huge Russian guy, bodybuilder, built, tough, nasty looking. You know what he's doing right now? Making dress-up games for girls on Android and iOS. Because the few girls in the industry want to make violent games, they don't want to make dress-up games.
They want to make what games?
Violent games, they don't want dress-up games. So the problem is Max, that's what his name is, he would make a much better game programmer for dress-up games for girls if he was part of that audience. Now he likes his job, but I'm sure he's not putting in the same kind of stuff that girls 9 to 11, which is the target age group for that game, would like, okay? So the problem is when I was in school in the 80s, it was 50-50 men and women. It's been going down ever since in computer science. 50-50 in computer science. So flat out, if you're female and you want to go into the game industry, game studios will hire you over your male counterpart. Simply because something you say in the future will mean something good for their game for the female market. That's what they're thinking. So you're in luck, because you're taking game programming, right?
My mom said that one of the reasons I might have gone into the game programming, like what might have helped me get accepted, was the fact that I was female.
I don't think that would help for getting accepted, but for getting a job, yes. Game companies will say, oh my gosh, we need female input on this game.
Because it looked like there was only, like I was part of the 1% of females in that class when I went to the orientation.
Yeah, there won't be many. In a typical class in our college system, you might have 1, maybe.
Do you ever know what?
We have one right here today, Tiffany. She's really good.
No, I'm just curious, but does anybody know why it's declining?
No idea. Nobody knows. We're just kind of worried about it. It's been declining since the 80s.
Is it like the bee population where no one knows why it's happening?
Pretty much. When you do find out, let me know. I'd love to know. Because we need that. It's just, I've talked to a lot of high schools in the last 6 months, and I've gone into grade 11 and 12 classes. They've invited me because they want to hear more about the game industry, and I do some cool Java stuff with them and whatnot, whatever they're teaching at the time, and game related. And the few girls in the class are just there because they had to take the class. They're not interested in doing it, right? And it's kind of sad, right? Because it's a great option. I remember the time when it was 50-50. Now, for some reason, girls just aren't interested in going into computer science, and we need more female computer scientists across the board. All right, shoot.
How do you get the game maker thing?
Ah, I'm glad you asked that. You just introduced my next and final session. Remember I said I was going to stick this up at the very end? That link that you get later today has a link to the Game Maker website where you can download a free copy of Game Maker for Mac or PC, as well as a link to the files we use. Remember our Batty One sprite and stuff, and more, like music files and stuff. And it has step-by-step instructions for what we did today, plus more. So I hope you guys enjoyed this presentation, or at least think that game creation is a lot easier than you thought it was 45 minutes ago. And if you haven't seen Game On, definitely go and see it before 8 o'clock. 35 minutes. It's great. It's fantastic, right? And check out our booth before you go in too. It's pretty cool.
Thanks.
But,
Oh, sorry.
oh, go ahead. Yeah.
I was just curious about this, but would it be possible to make a game using the old 80s methods just from finding the old
Yeah,
computers?
people still do that. In fact, there's even a Game On, a slow year, that actually did that. It was very different back then. You had very limited storage space. So if you look at Super Mario Brothers from 1985, parts of the trees and the pipes and stuff, if you look, they just took that part and they just switched it over to make, say, a bush. They reused a lot of the graphics. You can actually, there's a tutorial online, you can actually see how those games were actually created and why people today are actually using those methods to do it because it's fun. If you email me, I'll send you that.
I know, I'm just curious because it just looks too easy with Game Maker, but I was always wondering like,
But it's a prototyping tool, remember?
oh yeah,
And at the end, you take all your objects and the methods inside, and you just make those same objects in a programming environment. It's a perfect prototyping tool, so you're actually doing real game programming, not just pitching it to your friends. And you can play that game forever on your Mac or PC. Even without Game Maker, you can make it executable. So,
Have you ever heard of Game Salad?
sorry,
What's it called? Game Salad?
Game salad?
Game Salad.
My friend recommended it.
Probably like Game Maker.
Oh, I've never heard, it sounds too healthy for a most game. There's Scratch and a bunch of other ones. But Game Maker's probably the most famous, that's why I use it, it's easy to get.
3D Rad.
Never heard of that.
Oh, it's pretty interesting. It's like you make 3D games. I haven't figured it out yet, but apparently you can get some items from Google. You know that Google SketchUp where you make the 3D buildings?
Oh, yes, I think I know what you're talking about now, I know what that is now, yeah.
Like you can steal the buildings from there where they have them from their warehouse and you can just put them on the game thing.
Now, if anyone here is interested in going beyond Game Maker, anyone interested, like I see some older people in the audience, if you know a little bit of programming or you just want to make a 3D game,
Unity.
Unity 3D, and you don't need to know any programming if you want to start and play with it. Just spend $50. Unity is free, the non-pro version. Unity 3D, it's the hottest game engine out right now. If you spend $50 as a student, you can get a plugin called Playmaker for Unity, which turns Unity into Game Maker, only it's 3D. It's very cool. And there's tons of books and chapters on both Game Maker and Unity, so if your parents will buy a $30 book, it's probably about 300 hours well spent. Which is why parents buy Minecraft too. 30 bucks, 1,000 hours well spent. So I hope you enjoyed the presentation. If you come up at the end, I'll show you some extra stuff on here, or answer your questions, and you can come on up too if you like. Ask some questions.
Is there a 3D version of